Welcome to the Dig Endurance Podcast, where we are all about digging deep and discovering the power of emotional resilience. I'm Aaron, and I'm joined by my brother, Shaun.
As endurance athletes and business owners, we have learned a thing or two about facing and overcoming adversity. We are here to share inspiring stories from our guests that will help you to find that inner strength when you feel like you are running on empty.
Are you ready? Let's dig in. All right, welcome to the Dig Endurance Podcast. We're here with Nate Moore today. Grateful for him joining us. So Nate, local here in Fresno.
Yep, very well known.
So San Joaquin running, right? That's like race series. It's like what, 8 to 10?
Got 10 races.
Races throughout the year? Okay, cool. And in addition to that, coaching, right? And is that just under your name, Nate Moore Coaching?
It's under More Endurance.
Okay, More Endurance. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, More Endurance. And then...
Do you coach, instead of just trail running, you do everything, right, though? Any type of endurance running, anything at all?
Yeah, I prefer people that are interested in like longer stuff. But I'm definitely...
Longer from where on out? Half
probably
marathon
like
and up?
Marathon and up.
Marathon, okay.
But definitely open to beginners as well.
Cool.
Okay.
I really love working with beginners. So.
Okay.
Cool. So, race series, San Joaquin running, endurance coaching, and that's, you said, I'm sorry, what was it again?
It's more-endurance.com.
More-endurance, okay.
We'll share that.
Awesome.
We'll share it.
Yeah. And then, your background, you're in your military, right? You were in the military for some time?
A short period of time. It feels like a long time ago. 'Cause now I'm dating myself. That was over like 20 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't seem as significant as when it was fresh. It seems significant, like fresh in my memory. But.
Sure.
So was it straight out of high school?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, I was somewhat depressed yesterday because there's this thing going on Instagram right now where it's like share pictures of you when you're 21 or something. And then I thought about it. I was like, well, that's not that long ago. And then I was like, wait, 16. I was like, no, 16 years ago. Okay, that is pretty long. I was
thinking about it too, and I was joking
forever.
myself because I'm like, I have pictures in print, like not a digital.
They're not even
There's
digital.
nothing on my phone from when I'm 21.
Yeah.
And if it is, it's like a picture of a picture. I was thinking the same thing.
My natural inclination was like, that's not long. And then as I did the math, I was like, no, shoot, that is getting kind of long actually.
Yeah, I saw people sharing them, and I'm like, you have pictures on your phone from when you're 21. Like, I don't have that.
Yeah, no, me either.
iPhone back then.
Not anymore. But, well, I guess for getting started, so where, it sounds like military was 20 years ago. When did the I guess, interest or what's the background with endurance or with racing? When did that kick in, or what was the process leading up to what you do now? However you want to, I guess, dive into that.
Yeah, so I think my first introduction into like trail running informally was when I was in the Marine Corps. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, and I was in
That's a great place to be stationed.
Yeah, it's a cool spot. I surfed a ton. I was in a unique duty station where we worked with recruits. It was
Oceanside, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a satellite depot where they did recruits did weapons and field training.
Cool.
And I kind of had a schedule that was like my own.
Nice.
So we worked with them, and when they weren't there or training with us, like just do whatever you want.
That's awesome.
So I'd run over the 5. They have like a little hovercraft place. I don't know if you guys have ever gone down the 5 just before you get to Oceanside. There's a big concrete wall over there. It's like a Navy center. So I'd run across the 5 over a little footbridge and then run down there and hit some trails up behind the range. And that was like my first informal. I didn't know what trail running was. I honestly didn't know running was a sport. Like that was... It sounds dumb, but I was like traditional sports. I knew like basketball, baseball.
Yeah.
I never watched a running event in my life. I didn't know that was like a popular thing.
Yeah.
And I got a free entry into the Rock and Roll Marathon San Diego when I was in the Marine Corps.
That's a big one, is it not?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
And
Rock and Roll is a series, right? They
had a series for
Vegas.
I just know there's a big race.
I think they do Vegas, San Diego.
Oh, yes.
They have a couple major ones, I
Yes,
think. Anyway,
okay.
Do they still do it?
The Vegas?
I don't know.
Like all of them. I know they do Vegas, but
Oh, I don't know about the other ones. I know Vegas because my in-laws live there, and I know that they get kind of ticked every time that the Rock and Roll Marathon rolls around because it blocks
shut it
everything.
down.
Anyway,
Like two cities.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
oh gosh.
The best.
Yeah, no. So that was my introduction. I trained. I didn't look anything up, nothing on the internet. I had a route. I ran a marathon in training. I ran like from my barracks to Carlsbad and back. I remember that very well because I was so unprepared.
So before the race, you ran a marathon in training?
I had no clue. Right. So I'm like, I was
literally
total
fits the bit.
beginner, didn't know anybody that ran. I just had an entry, and I had the ego the size of this room. From being in the Marine Corps, I thought I could, do anything. Yeah. And it wasn't a big deal. And, that all came to a screeching halt at like mile 16 of that marathon. So, I was humbled beyond belief, and I was, running with like a 3-hour group, maybe a little bit slower, like 3:05. And I'm like, oh, I'm crushing this. You know? And then you hit 16 and it's just like, if you haven't done it, no fueling, no hydration, all running.
So no one had even taught you about that, right?
Nothing.
It's like I run, the further I run in training, the further I can go in a race.
I'm amazed you made it to 16.
Typical starter thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it was like 16, 18, like right in there. The hard fade, definitely 18 was the mark.
Oh, yeah.
Like I hit the porta potty and I was like, I'm going to just like sit down in private for a second because
my legs don't function.
Everybody's on the street cheering you on, and they're like, yeah, run. And I felt like a total failure. I was like, oh my gosh, like my legs aren't going to work right now. Like they're all cramped up. I sat there for a second, collected myself, and I'm like, well, I'm going to finish it. So I jogged it in. And the other thing that like brutally crushed my poor little ego back then was they had a bus that picked people up that were about to like not make the cutoff or whatever. And so this group of ladies, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, they're big ladies though. And so the bus picked them up and dropped them off closer to the finish line. And so I am approaching them from behind, and everything in me was like, these ladies passed me when I was in the porta potty. And I'm like, oh, I'm going that freaking slow right now. And I just got passed by this group of ladies that are walking very briskly. And, because my pace had,
and you
like
thought
the last 8 miles took me as long as the first 16 or 18.
Yeah.
We've had this conversation before.
So it was brutal. It was just like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad. And then afterwards, instead of being like, I'm never doing that again, it was more of like, I'm gonna figure this out.
This does not work for me.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way in heck. Like,
my first Ironman was like 14 hours, and I came across, and I thought it was so cool. And the next day, Megan, my wife, she loves to poke and troll me, and she's like, "Hey, did you see the lady that finished in front of you?" Literally the same thing. I'm like, just stop. I mean,
Let me have my moment.
Again, not being disrespectful, but generally when you compare it, she was probably 60, 65, probably 40 or 50 pounds heavier than me. And she was just, no problem. Hey, here I come on in. I was just kind of like, okay, now we got to do this. Now we got to,
that's funny.
Let's figure this out.
But now coming full circle and having been doing this for so long, you learn to have so much more respect for people that are in that position, whether they're bigger, they're older, they're slower or whatever. I've come to appreciate like everybody's, where everybody's coming from, whether they're just getting into the sport, they've been into it. So definitely I've come a long ways from that. That was like 2005, I think, when I did that marathon. And that was like a real eye opener. I think I did triathlons for a little bit. I did some like Olympics. I did team and training here locally when I was going to Fresno State. And so that over the course of time, I've come to appreciate like, those are the people that stand out to me, are the people that are out there that are finishing last place or like late back a pack, those are the people that are out there. They don't get the glory.
Yep.
They're out there for way longer than everybody. It's harder for them typically because they're not in as good of shape. And granted, we could come up with all these, like, it's their fault, they should train harder, blah, blah, blah. But they're out there, they're doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're out there with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
And I think, I give, hats off to those people.
For sure. I agree.
Their endorphins are exactly the same when they cross.
So you kind of got checked a little bit on the first marathon. I can relate to that too. Same thing.
Oh, it wasn't kind of.
First marathon.
I got checked hard.
Okay. So where did it go from there? Like, okay, I'm going to really tackle this now kind of a thing. I really want to do better.
Was your first marathon in Louisiana? That was the first one.
That was my first one. Okay. And I had a similar, I finished over 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing, crashed on mile 20 and just no nutrition, no fueling, underestimated that completely, and anyway, very similar experience.
Yeah.
But so where did it go from there?
More of the same, so my ego got deflated for that day. And then I was just like, oh, I was just being a little bee, I got to be harder. I got to be, this and that. Like it was all Marine Corps mentality. So it was just like, drink some water and suck it up. Like I thought I just like was weak.
Yeah.
So I started running more. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working out and stuff like that. And then, like I said, I did some triathlons, and then I don't think I did another marathon until like maybe 2010 or something.
Yeah.
Like it was a while.
That is a while.
So it did put me off, but I was just running on my own. I wasn't interested in racing necessarily. And I think that's when I started picking it back up again, when I found out about 50 milers. And that was through Dean Karnaz's book, that Ultra Marathon Man. And that's when I was like, I had finished another marathon, and in my head, I was like, there's no way like I could do this again, like another 26 miles or 25 miles on top of this, having run that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And that intrigued me. The challenge intrigued me. I was like, oh, well, this guy's doing it, and he sounds like he's having fun.
I can do it.
You know, and he had a good attitude about it. And so that was the biggest thing. I was like, okay, like I'm going to figure this out. So I kind of did the progression, and I signed up for like a 50K, 50 miler, and then I did a 100 miler all within like 2 years. So from 2010 to 2011, that was like that big like switch right there where I really got more into running. Yeah. Still not like very smart about stuff. I started fueling better. I figured some of that stuff out, but not like really doing research necessarily.
Yeah.
So
it's like how to keep the body going, but not necessarily how to train it to go. I
also feel like that's a different time.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's so much more information out there now that you can pretty readily access for racing now. Like even at your fingertips on social media, like there's so much, I don't know, that you can easily find on nutrition or training, like that you had to go buy a book even 12 years ago to, figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, there were like only a handful of books, and it was all, some of the stuff was older, like some of the running books. So then I started, finally, it took me a few tries. Like I think after my first 50 miler, I was like, okay, I should probably like read some stuff. I should figure this out. Because same thing, first 50 miler, there was these old guys, they were like 65 or something like that. I passed them way early on in the race, caught up to me at mile 35. I'm like dead. Yeah. And they're just moving the same pace that I saw them when I first saw them in the race. Yeah. They just never slowed down. They just held that pace the whole way. They probably smoked me by 2 hours into the finish. I finished it, but I was just like, same thing, man. I was like, man, what are these guys doing that I'm not doing?
That's what I think people who aren't in the community don't really get is like, they think it's just like any other sport. Like, the most athletic wins. Well, not necessarily, actually. Yeah. There's plenty of athletic people in running in races that actually get beat because their strategy and their training is poor.
Yeah.
I think it's the one that is best prepared really are the ones, not that there's no athleticism, but I think you get what I'm saying. But the best preparation, I think, is what really wins.
I've learned, I don't coach a ton of athletes, a few guys that are serious, a couple girls. I always tell them one thing, like you have the information, it's available. You have your experience, that's available. You can put those together and you can do what you want. When you go out on a group ride or a group trail run, like, hey, what are you drinking? What are you eating? Right? You all of a sudden you're inundated with information. I always tell them, like, in the end, when you start hitting endurance stuff, it's individualized, right? Mm-hmm. So training and stuff, there's some things that are universal, some basic concepts, but like nutrition, like some people need pizza, some people need scratch, some people need hard-boiled eggs. I mean, it's just all around. So like, do your thing, do your own thing based off your own experience, and keep pushing the envelope. That's literally like the main thing. I'm just like, ignore the noise. If something works for your body and you're able to go further and faster than you have before, document it, note it, move on.
Well, I think that goes to your point that you're saying just about how much information is available. It's information, but there's also a lot of noise.
I've noticed, for sure. Some of it's wrong. Some of it's wrong information.
Well, in social media is everybody thinks that, going back to your point, is that you're, a case of one. What works for me might not work for you guys. And you've got all these influencers and people on social media that are like, you do this and it'll work. Like, I had these results, you do this, and they're just preaching it like it's fact.
Yeah.
And
that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And there's so much energy behind it, and they're constantly pushing it, and there's just all this noise. And then I see these things because I come across it. Obviously, my algorithm's like just showing me all running stuff.
Really? I don't know what I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I see it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just need to put this away. I don't even want to look at this.
Yeah.
But it's and then you see it and like people have been running for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy's over here trying to tell the whole world what to do, and you just started running 2 years ago.
Yeah,
like maybe you're amazing and like you've had some great results, but
it's a good point. Like my coach, his name is Mark Pinales, and he's based out of Texas. And something that drives him crazy is when people say run slow to run fast. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, that's wrong, actually. You run fast to run fast.
Yeah.
He goes, you run slow to actually take care of your body and give it a break and still get some miles. But he hates that phrase.
Yeah.
And it's all over social media. Run slow to run fast. He's like, they're not wrong that you should run slow in your training, but it's not the slow runs that make you run fast.
Right. And the beginners don't understand what they're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that drives them crazy. So that's
funny.
And it is funny because there is You do. So I guess to your point, you got to sort through the right information, right? That's yeah, exactly.
So you got to find like a trusted source, somebody who's been doing it for a while,
like a coach,
track
maybe.
Record. Yeah. And I listen. My coach actually is he has a podcast, and I listen to his stuff. And
cool.
They talk a lot of science. It's David Roach and his wife Megan Roach.
Where's he based out of?
They're in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, Colorado.
Of course they're in Boulder.
You know, I'm like the bottom of the barrel, like athlete as far as his is concerned, because they have like top tier athletes that are winning stuff across the whole world.
Wow.
And so it's cool to like have somebody like that has that knowledge and that information. And his wife, between him and his wife, I mean, they're really into the science, into training philosophy, and just on top of it all the time. Like they live it. And so it's cool to have access to somebody like that as a coach.
Yeah.
And to be able to get that valuable information. Their podcast is free. So that's cool too, because then I can listen to that, and they're always like going over new studies, talking about training, and just silly stuff as well.
What's the name of their podcast?
It's Some Work, All Play.
Some Work, All Play.
Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to be plugging that.
That's okay.
Absolutely. Plug it.
I was asking selfishly.
But we're doing a podcast, so that's what I was thinking about. Because that's
Plug
like,
it, we'll tag it.
Yeah, that's the one I listen to the most. And
That's cool.
They're both like amazing people, so it's cool to have access to those amazing people.
That's awesome. So you started doing longer races. It sounds like 2010-ish.
Mm-hmm.
How did that evolve into, hey, I'm gonna start my own races. Like I'm gonna
how does
run
that
racing,
evolve into
and
San
I'm gonna coach. Like, yeah, where did that come from?
I think it took a little while, but I was in the Marine Corps from 2001 to 2005. I got out. I started going to Fresno State, and then there was still a bunch of stuff going on in Iraq, Afghanistan, and so I got recalled. So I was actually going to school. I was on inactive ready reserve, and I got orders one day. Like I came home from school. I had like FedEx, like whatever it was. I opened it up, and it was like orders to report to Kansas City.
Wow.
So basically, they were going to use up whatever time I had on my inactive contract, which was 4 years and 4 years. So you do 4 active, 4 inactive. Inactive is like you have no affiliation really, but on paper, like they can still call you back.
Wow.
So this is the first time this has happened in the Marine Corps. And they enacted an emergency order. They called people back. So I had to go back for a year. It basically disrupted my life. I had just met my wife, like just gotten married. I was going to school. I was really like,
you're on the next phase.
I had moved on, like everything, mindset, everything. And so I was in motion, and I was ready to assimilate back into
and you didn't
civilian
expect
society.
it because it was like unprecedented. Like,
Not at all. And so we got recalled, did like pre-deployment training, and then we did 6 months in Iraq, and then I got back out.
Wow.
And so that was like 2008, I think.
So you were away from your wife for like how long in that time?
A year.
You had to be away from her from a year?
Yeah. So I was in San Diego, so I was doing training down there. So I could come back every now and then. Not super frequently, but like I waited before until I got out before I wanted to have a serious relationship, just because it's not like.
So was that basically the first year of your marriage? You had to be gone?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. So that was really rough to start off a relationship. I mean, really test the bonds of marriage.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yes.
And I mean, we're still married. So
hey, you did it.
Those bonds are strong.
That's good.
16 years. So
Sweet.
From that though, that experience and that disruption of my life and my experience in Iraq, it really led me to like not want to settle for what's traditional. It's like getting a regular job, earning a regular salary, and like just falling in line basically.
Can relate.
And I felt a lot of frustration in my job at the time. I was working as a manager at Walgreens. So when I came back, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this, because they were moving me all around. I was in Hanford, and I'm working for Walgreens. And they paid okay at the time, and that was my motivation, was to make the money as like a store manager.
Right.
So I was kind of just jumping through whatever hoops they wanted. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. So I started working in the pharmacy. I got my tech license, or I already had it. And then that's when I started like just plotting in my head. I was still running at this time. So I'm like, you know what? Like I run on this trail. I was running on the San Joaquin River Trail in 2010 for training to do my own races. And that's when I was like, this is a perfect trail to put a race on, you know? And my friends were like, oh yeah, whatever, Nate, like you're not going to do that. And I remember vividly, I had a conversation with one of them. He's a firefighter, tough guy, big ego. Took him out. They got crushed on a run. Absolutely annihilated. Curtis Metler. I hope you hear this.
Let's tag him.
I will not forget this. He still works for the fire department. But anyways, they got crushed. I had to like go get him water, bring it back to him. They're puking, all these problems.
Yeah, trail running is a whole nother beast.
Yeah, so he said,
It is.
if you ever put on a race out here, I'll run it, you know? So lo and behold, you know, I've got plenty of races out there. Curtis is still not running one of my races. I'm looking. I don't know where we're at right now, but Curtis, I don't know how far this reaches, but if it gets to you, that's still in my brain.
That's
Challenge.
funny.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what kept me preoccupied at work. So I was in the pharmacy. I thought that was gonna be a good move because then I could stay somewhere stationary, like here in town.
Right.
And it just led me to even think like people are so unhealthy, and they don't know what to do about it or how to go about it. The doctors are just giving them pills to offset like these conditions that they're experiencing.
That they're self-inflicting often.
Yeah, and they're literally coming up and they're getting all their diabetic medication
Yep.
and these things, and they got Oreos and all this. Like they're doing their grocery shopping at Walgreens, and I'm like, this is not like you're buying canned soup, you're eating Oreos, like, and you come in and they ask me like, how do you stay so fit, Nate? And I'm like, well, you got to run and eat right. And they're like, oh, they're like want to buy something to take a pill to make them, get these results.
Yep.
And that day in and day out, they're all nice people. I don't fault them. I don't think they're bad people. They just have these things going on. They got to this place and it's hard to get back out.
Yeah.
But it pushed me further away from wanting to do that and more into wanting to be around people that make their health and like being active a priority in their life.
That's awesome.
That's what really pushed me. So first race was the San Joaquin River Trail half marathon in 10K.
That was the very first race of like the whole series.
What was the first year? What was the inaugural year?
2014.
2014. Okay.
Yeah. So that was the
10
first
years
year.
ago.
Oh.
Yeah. And so this will be the 11th year.
It's a big race.
of running.
Oh, okay.
Because we had that 2014 year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to do a 50K originally, which is the same 50K route that we have the San Joaquin River Trail 50K on, because that was just perfect line.
Yeah.
You go straight to the gorge, you come back. I'm like, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
How do I get aid stations out here? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. At the time, I was like,
I know how
I'll
you
hike
do.
stuff
I
out.
see it on Strava.
Yeah, so that half, my wife talked to me. She's like, maybe we should start something a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
And so I did the half marathon, and I remember I sent some messages out to some people that had put on a bike race out there, and I asked them some questions, and the message was like left read or unread. Like, I think I went back through my Facebook because it was via Facebook, and it never got anything. And I looked back at that not that long ago, and I was like, what if I just didn't do anything because they didn't respond to me?
Yeah.
But I didn't sit around. I was like,
okay,
people
I'll
make
figure
up
it out.
stuff. Yeah, everybody makes everything up anyways.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah, you just figure it out. So I figured it out. I got in touch with the land managers out there, and made it happen. And then that was a blast.
I wonder if the bike people are weird and thought you're like competition or something. Who knows? People get weird about that
I don't
stuff.
know. Some of them blend over into us. I mean, you've got.
I think the dude just wasn't on social media at the time.
Maybe.
I think
Okay.
2014 people were on. Like,
That's fair.
So these
It
aren't
wasn't
like
like-
Dion Doziers that run races and ride
sometimes-
bikes now. They're not
sometimes-
people like that. There's people we don't even know.
well, it was a guy that started and he moved to like Santa Cruz. I didn't know him.
Yeah.
So, and I doubt like
we'll give
he
him the
was getting
benefit of the doubt. Sometimes people are
He
weird about
never
that stuff,
saw
though.
the message.
I'll take it because maybe he would have not given me the information I needed. Maybe that
Sure.
just made me go after it even harder because
sure.
I didn't get that. So sometimes it's nice, and that's sometimes people ask me questions and I kind of leave it like that. I'll give them the bare minimum because I'm like, if you really want to do this, like you need to like make it happen.
Make it happen, yeah.
Yeah. And same thing with like coaching your athletes, like they can ask you all the questions in the world, but if they're not willing to go out and put in the work, like they're not going to get
Not going to matter.
the results that they want.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's the same thing. Like you can
No debate there.
tell someone until you're blue in the face, what to do, but they have to take action on their part. So
I agree.
that was going back to the event, great event. Fleet Feet was Aaron and Andrea over at Fleet Feet. Like they were super supportive of it from the beginning. And it kind of grew from there. And I did a couple more races, and then Aaron took over the Two Cities Marathon, and that's when it went full blown. Like I just quit my job. He was like, if you wanted to direct Two Cities, like if I wanted you to direct Two Cities, would you be interested in that? Because he had taken over ownership of the race at that point in time, and I was like, dude, I'll quit tomorrow. I had no clue what was involved. I was just like, I'll figure it out. Same thing.
Yeah.
And it already had like a structure and a foundation. And he was like, okay. So they talked about it some more, him and whoever else. And then he approached me again and kind of said, hey, we'll pay you this and this if you take care of the race. And then we'll kind of group all the races in together. And I was like, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So I quit my job, and then I started directing Two Cities, and then I just added on some more trail races.
And that's like what, 2015, 2016?
Yeah, that was like 2015 because I directed Two Cities from, I think, 2016, the 2016 race to 2019 because it was 5 years. It was either 2015 to 2019 or 2016 to 2019.
My first half marathon.
Do you not direct it anymore? No. Okay.
My first half marathon was Two Cities, 2012.
It's like a staple.
That's when it was starting and finishing at Wilbur Park. It was when I ran it.
I live right off of Shepherd now, like literally right off Millbrook and Shepherd. So it's like I ride my bike, and
it really is.
I can ride the whole marathon with my.
That's a great time.
It's cool if you can embrace it.
Yeah,
there's a lot of the community that's so resistant, though.
I know. Well, they just hate
most of them. I'm like, too bad.
They hate that we shut down Willow and Shepherd. That's what they hate.
I know. They had access. I had my email address out there and my phone number. Oh man, I can't.
I would love to see that.
I can only imagine.
I would wake up at like 3 a.m. or 2:30, like start getting ready race day, and I just blown up with messages because people hit the road closures.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh!
They're like emailing me as subject lines like, "Hey, F you, you." And then I get phone calls from people on Willow, and they're like, "You blah blah," cussing me out, and you better call me back. And I'm thinking, you're the last person I call back. I've got a whole race to put on. I could care less. Like you'll be okay.
Now they've got
the next door app. It's the best.
Now they've got those closure signs out there for a month before the race, and
it's not even that bad.
Always
though.
Has it always been that way?
It's not even that bad. The way it goes down Willow and how
they have to change it again.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, because they closed in that neighborhood right there, like off of Beeheimer.
I thought it was way better.
Is it Beeheimer right there?
Yeah, where they come down into let's see, Beeheimer goes across and then down to Champlain and Perrin and back up.
I think they thought they had less impact like that, but
no.
There's a neighborhood right across from Clovis Community that basically gets boxed in. Still had people calling me. So my number's still floating around out there somewhere. Sure. Or people that knew me.
Don't direct the race anymore.
They're like, Nate, how do I get out of my neighborhood? I'm like, I don't know, man. Good luck.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I really do love the race, though. It's that time of year is amazing, and
I'll try to do it next year, maybe.
It's mostly so flat.
I was broken this year, so
yeah, I was able to do the half.
Boston
this year.
by like 20
hopefully the full next year.
Oh man,
yeah. So I guess once you went full time, I mean, like, I don't know, that had to have been like, well, you've said, I guess it was like a kind of like realization of a goal and a dream there. I mean, being able to,
definitely.
I mean, you wanted to do something on your own, but then to do something that obviously is your passion, and combining the two, I'm sure was huge, for you.
100%.
And now you're still doing that, right? So when did the coaching kick in? When did you start coaching in addition to the races?
I started coaching probably 3 years ago, I think, maybe 4 years. And it just happened, like I had 2 people that were doing my races that just saw me running all the time, and they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in coaching us?" They were doing OCR at the time. It was Nicole McManus and Kyle Nemeth.
Okay.
They're 2 amazing athletes.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, and so
I'd say monsters, but okay.
It's super informal. I said, yeah, and they're like, "We'll pay you," and I'm like, "I don't even know what to charge you." Like, I just feel silly. Like a lot of times, I love running so much that I feel silly charging people. Over time, I've come to terms with this.
Yeah,
you got to make a living, right? Got to pay bills and stuff like that. Yeah. So that was just awkward at first, but they were super cool about it. I learned a lot just starting out from them. I had been working with a coach, so I kind of had an idea of how that relationship works and structure. And so it kind of evolved from there, where I went from 2 athletes to like 3 or 4 to I'm coaching like 15 right now. And so I've had like anywhere consistently for the past couple of years from like 10 or like 12 to 20-ish.
Yeah.
And it kind of fluctuates based on the season. Some people will only want to do it for a certain period of time and then kind of take some time off, which is perfectly fine. I've got athletes that just stay full-time the whole time.
Yeah.
People with injuries.
Sure.
Everything comes up, you guys know, when you're working that hard. And that's been, I think the coaching has been like really cool because the events are fun, but it's like a one day, It's like there's so much like hustle and bustle to get everything going. You guys are all out there running. You guys come back, you get your stuff, and I'm cleaning up, and then I pack up and leave.
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's great, and I've got like a ton of support from the community. But being able to like have some relationships with people and be involved in the process of their training, and them like trusting me with their training, is really cool.
I bet that's pretty fun when you have athletes that actually run your trail series. I mean, that's got to be kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking too, because like they're your athletes, they're out there, and it's like you want to give them all the attention. I'm like over here, like, hey, by the way, like there's a tree down, like in this corner, like make sure I'm like telling them about footing and stuff.
I hit a 5-gallon jug of water on the turn, and
then I see my friends over here. They're like, I might not coach, and I'm like,
pretty cool though to see them running your own race, or like see them that day, and like hopefully see them have some success. And
absolutely, and they have, and it's been really cool.
That's good.
I mean, it's a great thing.
I run into Steve
Steve
Braden,
Oh,
right? Yeah, I run into him from
you
time to
coach him?
time. Yeah,
Or is
yeah.
he mixed between you and Joe?
I know that he
I
had
can't
good
ever tell.
success this last year. I mean,
Joe informally coaches everybody.
Got it.
Whether or not you listen is up to you.
I got it.
but I know Steve really pushed himself this last year, and it looks like he had some good success in some majors. So
He did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he got
cool.
a huge PR out of Chicago.
That's cool.
And the guy is just, I would love to take credit as a coach, but
He's an
he's
animal.
a highly motivated
Yeah.
individual. And I think he would have success with most coaches.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you could chop his leg off and he would still run.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically
That's
where he's
pretty
at
much
right
how I
now.
feel about
Yeah.
him.
He's got a small injury that he's dealing with. So
he mentioned that. I saw him at the race.
I didn't
a few
even
weeks
know
ago.
that until he
was
he
there.
like said something
Yeah.
online, and I was like, oh,
But like I said, super motivated. He's going to be back 110%
he's always
before
back.
you know it. Yeah.
He's always
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
already making
Like
plans.
2 days later, back.
He's texting me. No, he's taking it serious, and we're being smart. And so that's the benefit of being a coach, is like having these talks with athletes and like trying to, back them off sometimes, especially with somebody that's really type A and motivated.
That's me. Yeah, I struggle to be, but I've learned the hard lessons of when you
Yeah.
have to back off. I mean, just like recently, I think I told you, it was like, okay, just take the 3 or 4 weeks. It's not worth it because you're just going to make it worse.
And it's good to have a coach in that situation too, to have somebody with an outside view of like, you can see when somebody's pushing too hard.
For sure.
Yeah.
Or these notes they're making in their log, or, if you're looking at just metrics like heart rate or their pace or whatever, and you can tell like, hey, we got to pump the brakes a little
For
bit.
sure.
Like, you can't ride this for that long. You're going to blow up.
You
For
feel
sure.
good now, but next week's not going to be good.
yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny because I convinced my coach to let me throw in Winchell, and he was like, because my goal has always been Boston. He's like, okay, this is a trail run. You've had your issues, and I'm like, yeah, but I feel really good. He's like, okay, but should we do a trail run? And I'm like, yes, we should do. I'm like, we should do a trail run. And he's just like, okay, like he went. I mean, he did it because I'm like lobbying for it, and then. Sure enough, he and I'm like, he's like, how are you? I'm like, I told you, I feel great. And he's like, okay, let's be smart. Let's let's really take it easy this next week. Nope. I pushed it on, a couple workouts, and I told you, like, by the following Monday or Tuesday, I was like, crap, he was right. And like my just full-fledged, on the right side of my hip, just starting. And I'm like, okay. And even though I'd already had some experiences where I should have known better, it was like, okay, I'm like you said, if he says jump, you just say how far, and just check the right boxes and listen. Especially once you start getting in your 30s, I think it's better just to like be smart about your body, because otherwise you're just going to do more harm than good long term. But anyway, I guess I'm just backing you up. with what
Well,
you're
I
saying.
mean, to your point, like as an athlete too, because I have a coach, right? So then I'm in those situations where I am signed up for 2 100-milers that are just over a month apart. One of them I signed up for, and I was in a lottery, and then I got in. I was like, whatever, I'll do it. And I come to find out, so I picked this race specifically because it's a Hard Rock and a Western States qualifier. And so I've been accumulating tickets for years now. I started early on. I lost those tickets, so I had to reset, but I'm back up to like 32 tickets for each race. So I'll be at 64
I have
after this
no
year.
idea what you're talking about.
So there's
It's
lotteries to get into these 100-milers.
It's like the world championship of an Ironman, but for trail running.
For the 100-miler.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
And
you
even harder
basically
to get
get
in.
each year you get a ticket, and then you get a multiplier over the course of those years.
Okay.
So you don't only qualify based off ability. You can qualify, but you still need tickets. Am I right?
Yeah. So Hard Rock, for instance, like they have spots allocated for like international athletes,
Yeah.
Killian Jornet. Somebody of that caliber.
Yep.
But that's like a limited spots. And it doesn't matter. You could be a pro like Jeff Browning or like some of these other amazing athletes. They're still putting in the lottery.
Still doing lottery.
And you still got to qualify every year. So, I've got to stay in shape because I might not run Hard Rock until I'm 50.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I
Okay.
considered that, and I read about the tickets and was like, this is
So it literally takes
too much.
So it literally takes years to accumulate to be able to qualify.
Unless you get lucky.
So, I mean, you can get in off of one ticket. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And same for Western States. That one, I feel like I'll probably get in sooner because Hard Rock has a little bit different breakdown, even though they've changed it. But whatever. The race that I put in for isn't a qualifier anymore for some reason.
Gotcha.
The one in August. And I got into it and I agreed. And then I had to hunt down another race because I don't want to have a gap in the years. I want to keep accumulating these tickets. So I found another one in Utah. It's out in Logan, Utah. It's a Bear 100. And those are about a month and a half apart. And I'm like, you know what? I already paid for them both. I could go do the one in LA and then I'll just go cruise the one in Utah. So I'm
Logan's
going to
so
be
nice.
having this conversation with my coach pretty
What
soon.
month is that, Logan?
August is, what's it called? Angeles Crest 100. And then Logan is in September.
Okay, I thought you said March there. I was like, I wouldn't want to run the Logan in March.
Oh gosh, it'd be freezing
cold.
Yeah, it's all icy.
I went to BYU and I visited Logan often. I was like, I wouldn't want to run at that
Logan
time.
is cold.
Summertime's great.
Yeah, it's September, so
that's that's cools off a little bit. That's nice.
Perfect.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and so you said back to back 100-milers working with.
Well, I'm gonna have this conversation with my coach, and he's be like, "No,
no, yeah,
don't like,
actually, come
on.
on.
I gotta figure out a way."
What
to
about you? Any injuries? Any setbacks? I mean, you just
nothing crazy.
I hate you.
You're a big
No, I'm just
yoga
kidding.
guy. You do a lot of yoga.
I think the yoga has been super beneficial.
I mean,
Anything mobile or strength, I find kind of
yoga
universal.
incorporates, I mean, a lot of mobility. I mean, right? So
Yeah, and I got more into doing yin yoga, which is just more. So like you're thinking like vinyasa or heated yoga, you're doing these movements that are a little bit more powerful. You're generating like a lot of heat in your body. You know, you feel like you're working out. Yin yoga is more just like stretching.
yeah,
And so more so than just the physical aspect of like doing the stretches and, you know, getting that benefit.
it's like a true combination of strength and mobility training. Then
It's less strength.
Less
though.
strength.
It's more
Oh.
just mobility, but you're also getting a chance to check in with your body, right?
Yeah.
And like you get to feel your body in a way where it's like it's uncomfortable because you're holding stretches, and as a runner, like everything's tight, right? You
Yeah.
have this elasticity in your muscles and in your legs, and everything. Like all these stretches feel silly. Everybody tells me, "Oh, I'm not flexible enough. I can't do that." So that's why we do it.
Yeah.
'Cause you're not flexible.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't do this, and I look like I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
But being able to check in with your body and know how those things feel in those poses where you're holding them for like 3+ minutes, super uncomfortable, you know, and it gets to a point where you just have to like calm down. You have to breathe. It's also great in running, right? Because you experience these sensations while you're running, whether it's in your performance or I feel things in, you know, different areas like IT or,
Yeah.
you know, and a lot of times it's from me unknowingly like creating tension in my body.
Yep.
Whether that's I'm running uphill and I'm like trying to engage my core in a different way or like lean forward or I'm like tensing up my calves. There's all sorts of little different things that I feel like we do and we're not focused on them because we're focused on something else while we're running or our effort or maybe when we're navigating technical terrain. But being able to check in with your body while you're doing these things and like relax and like release that unnecessary tension. Could be in your hands, could be in your face. All these little things that you can do while you're out there to help prevent injury and to like really check in. So if you are on the verge of like getting injured, you can know to like back off. And I feel like the yoga has been beneficial in that way, not just from the mobility aspect. So
that makes sense.
That
Just
and
an
then, like,
overall like sense of what's off.
yeah, in your body, just really being like in tune with it. And then, I mean, I do the stretching regularly, even if it's not like a full yoga practice, rolling out religiously, like my feet starting at the bottom where you connect with the ground, rolling out my feet all the time, rolling out my legs, and not to the point where I'm like doing it for like 30 minutes all
Right,
crazy,
right.
but like just
Consistency.
routinely. Yeah. So those things have been beneficial in like avoiding injury. I did roll my ankle like 2 weeks ago though, so if that makes you feel any better.
Gotcha. Well, no, I wouldn't wish injury on anyone. I just, frankly, I'm just jealous. I'm learning these things on the back end of what you're saying, and it is, I very much, just what you said, it's like you can't forego the small things because they matter a lot, actually. You learn that they're big things, like you said, the rolling every day, you know, the mobility every day. My background is more in strength training. I ran cross country in school growing up, but like I played basketball, soccer, similar things like what you said. And I had a weight training background and I got really into weight training. So the strength has never been a problem for me, even kind of like, I don't know, this whole concept of being a hybrid athlete. I think I already was one for a lot of my life.
Yeah.
I definitely, on the stretching and the mobility, wasn't happening. And eventually your body, I think, reaches a point, like you said, you can either figure it out by doing, you know, yoga or mobility or something where you're, like you said, checking in with yourself, that would be beforehand, which would be ideal, or you'll find out the hard way, hurting yourself, where just one day you're on a 16-mile run like I was, and all of a sudden my groin it's like, what was that? And then I remember I was like, well, this will go away, because that's what my thought process always was.
Like the memes on Instagram.
That's
like
how
the
my
running meme.
That's
You have
how
17 shatters in your bone. All right, so I can run.
That's how my body had always been. That's what I was used to. Like, oh, I'll heal. I'm always just used to tapping into that youth. And then 1 week went by, and 2, then 4, then 8, and it was like, this isn't going away. And it's like,
bones.
Yeah, but you know, it's okay. You know, you learn, you figure it out. But
Nate, do you have any other big plans for the community? You're big here. Fresno knows you. Do you have any?
Well, you got
like,
the so you got,
plans?
you got the trail racing series. You're coaching. Yeah, like what's I don't know. Like where are you headed? Like what's
goals? I think I ran with my kids cross country team this year at their elementary school.
That's cool.
Didn't really coach. I kind of took a back seat because they have some great coaches.
What's his name? What's your son's name?
Killian.
Yeah. Of course.
And Killian and Cannon. So they were both running. This was like the 1 year they were going to run, and they did cross country. I kind of coached a little bit more, so I just want to lead by example. I'll go run with you guys, show you how to have fun with it.
Yeah, cool.
Because I love running. And I don't want them to think it's a chore. So I really love the aspect of coaching. And I think I feel like I'm gravitating more towards that. But as far as events are concerned, there's a couple untapped spots that we haven't done races at that I'm like really, I just want to pull the trigger on, but I got to figure out how to like prioritize and maybe, delegate some other tasks to other people, like our other events. But a 100-miler would be great to have here eventually. So we've had some cool places.
I'm 2 years out from that, but
the valley has a lot of draws. I mean, like the weather for one. I mean, and then like it's relatively, there's you can get some good trails if you want, but it's also generally flat. I mean, in a lot of areas too, to keep it a reasonable race if you want.
We don't want to keep it too reasonable.
Well, I guess you don't want it for you. I mean,
never keep it reasonable.
But I also, I mean, geographically, it's accessible. Like for everyone in California, it's right in the middle. That's why they do the cross country state championships here too.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got all those things going for you, I imagine. So
100-miler at Woodward.
Woodward, oh gosh.
Like loop it like 30 times, 40 times.
I did have a race like that in somebody's backyard. It was actually, it's funny because I heard Christian mention that Silver Moon race.
Oh, yeah.
And so they literally set up shop right down the street from where I put it on.
Just a loop or
what? It was
what?
the same exact thing.
Could you
Same
imagine?
concept right down the road.
I've seen that all the time.
It's not even just that Christian. It's not even just that Christian does them, but could you imagine looping like 50, 60 times?
Well, check this out. So we had these guys. So the loops are actually fun because you get to interact with everybody. Back of the Packers, front of the Packers. Everybody sees everybody.
So you can joke with each other.
All this camaraderie out there. Everybody's rooting for
That's a good point.
We started it off early in the morning, 8 o'clock, 7:30, I think, beer mile. So we had a beer mile on the loop, right? So there's these two guys that were running to raise money for like a nonprofit or for friends like fund. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they both crushed a beer mile.
Do you drink a beer and run a mile?
Yeah, no, you drink a beer every quarter mile.
Oh, okay.
And you,
what?
Yeah, in the
you
course
have four
of
beers in 1 mile?
So I got people that are coming back and they're like, I'm like, maybe this wasn't the best idea. And then those guys proceeded to run 100 miles.
Oh.
So the first like 2.5 hours, they just looked like death. Because they kept running, right? The race started right afterwards. Okay. So they're running loops and they're like,
I don't
salt coming down. They're all, they're like, what do we do that for? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then once they cleared their system and they got further into the day, they just kept going and they ended up working it out. Tough guys, yeah.
Okay.
It was impressive.
All right, I'm in.
But the loops are interesting because you can do dumb stuff like that and get away with it,
Sure.
Because in the mountains, you might not get away with that. But.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm still amazed to get away with it. Those are like non-runners that just did it on the spot?
No, they definitely had to.
They had some base. I was like,
they were like bigger guys. Like, they were probably like hybrid. Like athletes.
Still.
But a lot of it, I mean, it's all up here, right? Like,
yeah, no joke. So so maybe adding some more races. I mean, imagine maybe some more athletes, kind of a thing. But I mean, just enjoying the ride. I mean, it sounds like. And then that is my son does cross country at Kasner now, and he ran elementary. It is fun when you can start working with your own kids. It's pretty fun. It's
hard because you don't know where the training is. We had this conversation.
It can be fun because the balance is you want to help them and steer them.
But you can't throw on like a secondary training program for them when they're 10 years old.
You don't want to project. You don't want to like live vicariously through them. At least I try to be careful about that. And some dads, I think, really don't do a good job of that. So it's like, it is an interesting journey once your kids start, as long as they're enjoying it, I think is like what's key for me. It's like if you're challenging yourself reasonably, you're trying to push yourself to improve and you're enjoying it. I've tried to like strike that balance. But Xander loves it. My son, he enjoys running it. And then we just started this year, like I got a garage gym and now I've got him on the treadie while I'm, doing my rowing and stuff. And it's just like, okay. And he'll come to me now like, hey, we working out tonight? And it's just like, okay, cool. This is kind of fun, So anyway, that's kind of a fun journey. So anyway, well, cool. Yeah. Anything else to, I don't know, add or throw out there along the lines?
Say to the community, anything at all?
Well, I guess I
love you guys.
Yeah.
We all know that.
I think you're just I love the story. I love coming from the military and then, the realization that like, hey, the 9 to 5 is just not for me. Shaun and I, that's definitely been our experience too. But I mean, like, to be able to have done that and like to really, meld it with a passion, like same here for us, we're really behavioral mental health. We have a lot of experience with that in our family, some not good experiences. Like it's one thing to like escape the 9 to 5. But it's another thing to like do what you love and like escape the 9 to 5. And so, I mean, I think it's really a cool story that you're able to do what you do. And, I mean, I know I enjoy the races, so I mean,
I'll win all your races next year. So
as long as I can keep myself healthy, plan to do more. So it's San Joaquin Running, I think, is the Instagram.
Yeah, SanJoaquinRunning.com.
Right, and then SanJoaquinRunning.com. So if you want it, what's the next race? When is the next?
This Sunday.
This coming, and that's where is that one at?
Hensley Lake.
Hensley.
Oh, that's a good one.
River Trail. San Joaquin is March.
Yeah, San Joaquin's March, early March. I think it's like March 2nd. I should know my dates.
So Nate does 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, tons of trail runs, 50Ks, even 100K here in the Central Valley. He coaches a ton of athletes. You don't have to be advanced. You can be a beginner if you want to get off the couch and learn some cool stuff and just change a few things about your life. Nate's the man to go to.
Deal. And then was it?
It's more MOORE-endurance.com.
More-endurance.com.
We'll share that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's if you're looking for any coaching or anything.
Yeah.
Cool.
They can hit me up through that or just Nate@SanJoaquinRunning.com.
Good deal. All right. Well, Nate Moore, appreciate you being
Thanks,
here.
Nate.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah. Appreciate you. Thanks.
Thanks.